Manx Radio Sport.
Good evening and welcome again to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio, with you now through until 6:30pm. I'm Rob Pritchard, and once again we're going to take a look at the sporting action coming up on the island this weekend. On tonight's programme, an intense week of Manx football continues this weekend with the Hospital Cup and Junior Cup getting underway, as well as the semi-finals of the Women's FA Cup in a busy 2 days of fixtures. It's the grand finale to the Manx rugby season this Saturday, with 2 trophies up for grabs in 2 big games at Portishead. And with another big Manx following expected to be involved in the London Marathon this year, we spoke to a couple of the local athletes taking part. That is all to come this evening. Starting with football tonight, there's been football left, right and centre this week, with fixtures jam-packed into the midweek, and I'm delighted to say that those games have managed to avoid any potential adverse weather to take place across Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. Now we're looking ahead to the weekend, so as ever we welcome Tony Mepham to the studio. Tony, very good evening. Before we get started, must say about midweek, congratulations to Russian United on winning the Canada Life Combination 1 title again this year, and also to St Mary's for winning the Combination 2 title this week.
Yeah, definitely, Rob, and take nothing away from either team, because Russian incredible at the moment, still undefeated in that league all season, so it's a tremendous run that they've had, and well done to Andrew Moody and everyone involved. Done a terrific sort of amount of work just to keep it all going together, because players have been taken out and come back in again. But St Mary's is just unbelievable, because when you think of it, 12 months ago, they didn't have a team, they didn't have a club, and they've come back into it. They took 1 year out, rebuilt. It looks like they've got a great chance of winning in the DPS Limited Div 2 and in the Combi 2. Really good group of players there, and I went down to watch the last sort of half an hour, Rob, and there was nearly 100 people watching it. It was incredible, and well done to them, and they sort of were buzzing afterwards. I'm sure there's a few sore heads the following day, and hopefully everyone didn't get told off if they miss work.
So the combination leagues decided, the Premier League and Division 2 still to be decided, but they are not taking centre stage this weekend. It is cup competitions. So let's take a look at the fixtures across Saturday and Sunday, jam-packed again. We'll start with Saturday, the preliminary round of the Hospital Cup taking place. 8 fixtures penned in at the moment, and we'll start with one of the all-Premier League clashes, Onken taking on St George's. Yeah,
it is, and the Hospital Cup used to be played on a Sunday, but we juggled it around. We refreshed it 3 or 4 years ago, and it's played on a Saturday. We stay with the 2:30 kickoff purely because people say, why go 2 o'clock? We've got the daylight now, so that's why we've done it. But Onken against St George's, Onken just sort of looking at the league form, it's been a bit of a struggle for them. Big defeat for them midweek against Peel, as well with St George's. We know what they're capable of. When the players are sort of back in, all of them fit and healthy, then St George's are strong, and they've got a good chance maybe to do well in this competition this year. So you've got to go for St George's to go through.
And then we have a mix of Premier League hosts and Division 2 visitors. So St John's United, they'll be hosting Gyms.
Yeah, and when you look at it, St John's 12 months ago were playing against Gyms in League 2, so it just shows you how they've come on. And St John's have had a terrific season in the league, and they'll be looking to see if they could do something in the Hospital Cup, because when you look at it, the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, they got beat, but they've still got a chance of getting into the Railway Cup. We'll come to that one at another stage. But I think St John's will be too strong for Gyms. I watched them against Geordies. They'll try and compete with them, but I just don't think Gyms are going to be strong enough.
And then we have an all-Douglas affair. So Douglas High School Old Boys, bottom of the Canada Life Men's Premier League at the moment. They host Douglaston District, who already caused one of the big upsets of the year in cup competition earlier in the season. Do you think Douglaston District might sense an opportunity here?
Well, he might, because when they beat Union Mills was second, and that was absolutely terrific. But St John's, they've had some good results of late, and that one against Corinthians, which has put a spanner in the works for them to possibly win the league. This is a cup, and they want to do well in this one as well. So I just think that, with Old Boys, with the players that they've got there, they've got some older hands. I keep saying it each week, but they're still capable of doing well. And Chris Coxon, I think it was, who got the penalty recently, it just shows that they can hold their nerve as well. I just think Old Boys will be too strong for Douglaston District, but as you rightly say, Douglaston District are capable of beating the big team. So let's see how this one goes tomorrow.
And then in the next fixture, well, on paper at least, it looks like a complete mismatch, but you never know with the magic of the Cup, do you? It's Governors Athletic struggling in Division 2 this year. They're up against high-flying Premier League outfit Corinthians.
Yeah, Corinthians, and they've lost 1 or 2 players that were going to play tomorrow, but they're not now, and that's affected Ben Qualtro's selection. He's tinkered around a little bit. The Cal Cup players who played ever so well on Thursday night, they'll come into the team, which is really good to see. Governors Athletic love it. I know they keep drawing St George's, or they get Corinthians, or they'll get one of the top teams, but they enjoy the day. Carl Hunter's always said that one, and I'm not sort of saying that Governors aren't going to be able to compete with them, but for 90 minutes it's going to be really tough, and you usually see them hang in there, and then the goals unfortunately come in at the end. So we'll wait and see how this one goes, but you've got to go for Corinthians to go into the draw.
Then next up to the north of the island, and two teams who are doing extremely well in their respective divisions. You've got second place in Division 2, Michael United, up against the current Canada Life Men's Premier League leaders, Peel.
Yeah, and this gives Michael a little bit of a pointer of what they could be facing week in, week out next year, because Peel, as you rightly say, top of the league and looking good for it, as Michael slipped up recently, dropped some points, so they don't want to see that happen again, and that was a costly defeat that against Braddon. And I think everyone at Michael don't want the season to end up on a bad note and not get promoted. And if they could have a run in the Hospital Cup, that would suit them as well. Don't think they're going to win it. Peel in the draw.
And then another all-Premier League affair also up in the north, this time at the Ballaclone Stadium. It's going to be Ramsey hosting Union Mills.
Yeah, and I watched Ramsey last week, and they struggled a little bit at times against Douglas Royal, but they got it right in the end. And Jack Gilbert scored a super goal, but right the way through the team, Ramsey work hard. It's home advantage for them. The pitch should be fine. Hopefully not too much rain tonight. Union Mills, again, inconsistency. It creeps in for them, and that's cost them a lot towards the end of this season. But they've still got a chance at the Railway Cup as well. They're in the semi-finals. But on this one, I'm going to go for Ramsey. I think they'll be too strong.
Then two more fixtures remaining in the preliminary round of the Hospital Cup this weekend. One of those is an all-division 2 affair, and it's Braddon up against Colby.
Yeah, they've got the bit between the teeth at the moment, Braddon, haven't they? Because they had that good result against Michael. As well with Colby, it's just basically finish off the season on a good note, rebuild, and then go again next year. Now, I've been told that they're having a bit of a get-together in the morning. Colby, they're having breakfast together, pre-match meal, because this game's being played at Braddon. Not too sure where the venue is. We haven't been invited, Rob, but I can't see Colby winning this one.
Classified information, is it?
Exactly. I'll go for Braddon to win.
Very well, and then rounding off the preliminary round of the Hospital Cup this weekend, Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys, they'll be hosting Premier League Laxey.
Yeah, and I think Laxey will be too strong for them in this one, because I think Brodie Patience is fit to play. Ethan Hawley will be in there, he's a good player, and I think Glenn Walker as well will be in that Laxey starting line-off, so I think they've just got enough there to beat Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys.
Well, as Tony mentioned, all those games kicking off at 2:30pm tomorrow. There are also two league games taking place also at 2:30pm tomorrow, one in the Canada Life Men's Premier League and one in DPS Limited Division 2. Yeah,
Douglas Royal against Ayr United. Douglas Royal did well last week, but I think they've lost one of their players that they had last week, so we'll wait and see what's going to happen team-wise. But Ayr United had a good effort midweek, but it didn't sort of pan out. Two previous games before that, it's been a bit of a struggle for them. So I'm going to go for Douglas Royal just to win it. And Foxdale against Douglas Athletic. Douglas Athletic have been battling well, but I think Foxdale got so many games coming up, Rob. They're going to have tired legs, but I think Foxdale will win this one.
And those are your fixtures for Saturday. Then we move to Sunday, another busy schedule, and we'll start off with the preliminary round of the Ascot Hotel Junior Cup. 7 games on Sunday, all kicking off at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, and it's a real tough one to predict this at the moment, because first team players can get qualified in this competition, and I don't think anyone will bet against Russian not winning this one. So they've got a home tie against Laxey, so I'll go for Russian to win. Douglas Royal against Braddon. I think Braddon will win that one. Ayr against Corinthians. I'm going to go for Corinthians. Jims against Peel. Peel is second in the Combination 1 League, so I'm going to go for Peel to win. Douglas and District against Ramsey. I'll go for Ramsey. And Moran against Maloo. I'm going to go for Moran.
And then we move into even more cup action, and it really is crunch time in the Canada Life Women's FA Cup. The semi-finals taking place tomorrow. 2 games, one at 2pm, and we'll start with that one. And boy, is this a potential big one. It is Corinthians versus Peel.
Yeah, it's huge. And, Corinthians have had the bragging rights on Peel this season. And I think certainly with the team that I've heard they've got are looking pretty strong for this as well. But Peel are strong as well. And it just depends on the day how they play. It's at Balafletcher, so I'm going to go for Corinthians just to pip it, but it will be tight.
And the other semi-final at 3:40pm tomorrow is Douglas Royal versus Malou, and they must be licking their lips at the prospect of knowing that one of Corinthians or Peel will have to exit the competition and one of them will have a shot in the final.
Yeah, and the big thing about this one is Douglas Royal last week couldn't field a team, Rob, so hopefully they've got a team this week. But Malou, when you think of it, this is their first season in women's football, so to get the opportunity to play in the women's final, it'd be absolutely fantastic. This one's kicking off at 3:40 at the Bowl, purely because Douglas Royal are at home in the Junior Cup on Sunday. But great opportunity for Malou. We wish them well. And, I think if Douglas Royal do have their team out that they can, then they'll be possibly a little bit too strong for them.
We'll have to wait and see. And last but certainly not least, we have one game in the Masters FA Cup semi-finals still to play. 2:10pm kickoff at the Bowl on Sunday. Colby versus Corinthians.
Yeah, and Colby are crown champions this season. They'll get the trophy on Sunday, so congratulations to them. Corinthians have had a couple of good games of late. I think both teams I'll be seeing selection-wise, because Corinthians obviously got a Junior Cup game, so have Russian, and I know 2 or 3 of the Russian players dual register, so how they play that, I don't know. It's a difficult one, but favourites, you've got to go for the champions, Colby, to win it, but Corinthians are playing well.
Those are your Manx footballing fixtures across Saturday and Sunday. Well, we've got 60 seconds, so a brief mention for FC Isle of Man. It's their final game of their rollercoaster NWCFL Premier Division season this Saturday. They take on a side that are still in with a last gasp chance of a promotion playoff spot, Wythenshawe Town at the Bowl, kicking off at the earlier time of 3pm on Saturday due to league regulations. Tony, just very, very quickly, your thoughts ahead of this one. And I know you're not going to be joining us in the commentary booth for this one, but I'll get your thoughts anyway.
Yeah, you get my thoughts, and I think FC Isle of Man can win it. They've been incredible of late when you look at the previous games they've been playing in, and last week, Rob, I thoroughly enjoyed that because that was an absolute cracking game, because Bury were a very, very good side. When I look at Avro, when I look at Vauxhall, to me, Bury are miles ahead of them, so unfortunately they're not going to get promoted. But I thought right the way through it, FC Isle of Man just grew and grew and grew, and it was fantastic to watch. And I know most of the players are there. There's 1 or 2 missing. Alex Maitland will be a big loss at the back for them, but I have to go for FC Isle of Man to win.
Very well. If you want more on the FC Isle of Man team news tomorrow and a couple of stats to go with it, check out the preview over on the Manx Radio website. So FC Isle of Man versus Wythenshawe Town kick-off tomorrow, 3pm at the Bowl. And if you're not there, as ever, we as at Manx Radio have got you covered. Myself and guest co-commentator Sam Palmer on the mics from 3pm on Manx Radio AM 1368 and digital. Tony, thank you very much indeed. Well, we take a look at rugby now, and it is the grand finale of the Manx rugby season tomorrow, and 2 pieces of silverware will be up for grabs in 2 big matches at Portashee in Douglas. First up, the Ravenscroft Manx Plate Final at lunchtime before the Ravenscroft Manx Cup Final immediately after. And after an intense group stage, it comes down to this. And naturally, with a look ahead to the 2 trophies to be won and the 4 teams battling it out, is Dave Christian.
The plate final, it's Vagabonds against Southern Nomads. They finished 3rd and 4th places in the league phase of the competition. This could be a pretty close game. In the one meeting that the 2 teams had, it was up at Balafletcher. Vagabonds won by just over 10 points, but they all came in the closing stages. So Nomads will know exactly what it is they have to do. Whether or not they've got the personnel to do it at this late stage of the season is going to be the big question. No question about Vagabonds' personnel up there. They're really solid in the front 5, the likes of Joe Lowe, Matt Rockwell, Mitch Wells. If they're available, they're going to give Vagabonds probably a good edge in the set piece at least. Out wide, John Riley's got plenty of pace for Vagabonds. Cam Finley as well in the centre. Daniel Bonwick pulling the strings in the 10 jersey. And Mark Oldfield, again, if available, he didn't play last week, but if available, Mark there in the back row will help them get a little bit of go forward. Nomads, they've got their big players too. I mean, Ori Watterson, who is a key ball carrier for them, he didn't take part in last week's game against Ramsey, so Ori should be well rested if he's available. And ball carriers like him will give go forward to the pack. That'll allow them to get in amongst Vagabonds and potentially get in behind the defence. And once they're there, out in the back line, like Tony Quinn and Tom Collister, the guys with the real pace there in that Nomads side, can bring a little bit of life into the game and cause defences lots and lots of trouble. But they need ball to do that, and if Vagabonds stifle the flow of ball in the forwards, it should be game, set and match to Vagabonds. That one, remember, kicks off 1 o'clock at Portachee tomorrow. The Cup final at 3, different kettle of fish altogether. It's not quite David and Goliath. However, in cup terms, it is the plucky minnows against the overwhelming odds-on favourites. Douglas level 6 in the RFU pyramid. Ramsey not in the pyramid at all. If they were, they'd be at level 9, so Douglas 4 divisions above Ramsey. On paper, though, it's not that far apart. Douglas are at the lower end of level 6, and if Ramsey were in the league pyramid, yes, they'd be at level 9, but they're definitely capable of playing at level 8, and if all personnel are available, potentially level 7 as well. So the gap between the two clubs isn't quite as big as it looks on paper. And that was reflected when they met in the league phase of the Cup. Douglas won 36-10 up at the Muirk Park. But Ramsey had led that game for 58 minutes before Douglas brought in the cavalry off the bench and tidied the game up at the end. Ramsey will know that this week, and looking at the two squads they've been named, Douglas Simon Hoddenott is the first name that stands out on the team sheet, and not just because he's number 1. The versatile prop forward actually started in the centres against Ramsey in that earlier game. No complacency for Douglas in Cup final weekend. Hoddenott back into the loose head shirt. But the rest of the side, Douglas have been, as they have been all throughout the competition, reasonably conservative with their team selection. They've not been going with the guys who have been playing league rugby week in, week out. They've got some of their youngsters in there, and they're doing really well. Jake Black's there in the front row. He scored 2 in his last 2 games. And in the back row, Percy Hampton, Wilf Commode, and John Dutnell. Again, there's no Craig McGee, Mark McGee, Neil Killier. They're the big boys you'd expect to see, and they're taking up some bench spaces. Kyle Martin starting at scrum half, Luke Highland at standoff, and in even the back line, Ollie Corkus, Jack Shim and Harry Houston, Sam McCord, they're the guys who are potentially the future of the club down there at Douglas rather than the past. And Brendan Kelly at fullback, he had a great game against Southern Nomads at scrum half. So Douglas really experimenting a little bit. Ramsey have got their best side out, I guess. They're missing a couple, like Rory Nicholson is one name that I'd seen not on the team sheet. They've got the same team virtually they had against Nomads last week. There's a change of prop with Michael Flynn coming in on the tight head. Ross Quayle's going to drop to the bench. That will allow Josh Coutine to go into the back row. Eddie Lord will replace him in the second row, and he'll be partnered up with youngster Ben Gelling, who had a great game against Nomads last week. Scrum half, it's Nathan Robson. Standoff, Finton Cummins comes back in. He was rested ahead of this final. And the back line is just one change. I think Connor Casey's going to drop to the bench and Braden Roach will get a start. The injury worry Ramsey had with Nathan Brew, that's fine. Brewy's overcome the knock he picked up in the early stages in the game against Nomads, so he's fitting well. And Ramsey have got some bigger players on the bench, perhaps. John F. Watling is there. He's a veteran, over 200 league appearances for the side. And Dan Richmond, who's just recovering from a knock, he got a full game at standoff last week. He's going to be there on the bench, and he'll cover multiple positions in the back line. And, of course, Ross Quayle, the Terrier, they've got some front row subs there. Matt Liverse's there. Neil Hume is there, all capable of filling in. So Ramsey have got a much more versatile bench than they did for that earlier game against Douglas.
Manx Radio Sport.
And finally tonight we turn to athletics, and once again a big Manx contingent is expected to join the thousands descending on the English capital this weekend for the 2023 London Marathon taking place from Sunday morning. As ever, those involved will be doing so for different reasons, some seeking competitive goals, others for important charitable causes, and some to enjoy the iconic event. With that in mind, I caught up with just 2 of the Ireland competitors taking part, and they are Richard Shipway and Dawn Atherton.
I'm looking forward to it hugely. I should have done it in 2020, but obviously the COVID got in the way. And then it's put back to 2022, and 2021, whatever it was. And I missed that one because of an email mix-up. So I finally get to do it this year. So it's been 3 years, been waiting for this. So I'm really looking forward to it.
What is it about the London Marathon? Everyone talks about it. It's an iconic athletics event on the calendar. Yeah. What are the most special things about it, in your opinion?
I think you should nail the head, really. It's iconic. I think if you're a marathon runner in the UK, you have to in London at one point in your life. And this will be my first time. So, just one of those things I've just had to do eventually. I'm looking forward to running over London Bridge. That looks fantastic. Looks a great place. Also, running down the Mall towards the end, hopefully with a sprint finish on my in my legs. Yeah, we're looking forward to going down the Mall and around the Victoria Monument up to the finishing line. I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most, really.
Dawn, thank you very much for taking a couple of minutes to speak with us. The London Marathon, of course, this weekend, expecting a big Isle of Man contingent over there. You're going to be part of it. How much are you looking forward to taking part?
To be honest, at the minute, I'm a little bit nervous still. Looking forward to going to London. I do love London. So hopefully once I'm there, I'm going to be a little bit more excited about the marathon. I'm looking forward to just going. My sister's coming down as well. She's running her first marathon in London this weekend. So I'm looking forward to seeing her and, seeing her at the finish line as well.
Now, you personally, you've got a competitive edge in mind in terms of looking for a time. Your sister, you mentioned there, one of the big things that the London Marathon does is there are people running for certain causes as well. So could you explain a little bit behind your sister's objectives and what it's for?
She's not really run for very long. She had a little girl a few years back who sadly passed away from a genetic disorder. And it was during the pandemic in the UK. And she was looked after really well by a hospice local to her. Unfortunately, after her daughter passed away, she then had a little boy as well who had the same condition. So again, the hospice were brilliant to look after both children. My sister, my brother-in-law did so much to support them when she still had a little girl and a little boy, and then looked after both of them really, really well afterwards as well. When I knew that I could apply for a Good for Age place back in about October time, Charlotte had just done her first 10-mile race, and I said to her, I think you should apply for a charity place with the hospice. They definitely, with what you've been through, they definitely give you a place to run for them. And she said, no way, there's no way I'm running a marathon. I'd said the same thing this time last year. I was never going to do another one. So I started to think, maybe I should give it another go. And then next thing I knew, she said to me, can you just check over my form? I'm going to apply and see if I can get a place. And she did. You two have both got different objectives, different things you want to get out of it. But the fact that the London Marathon, as you two are proving, is a different space for people to run competitively or socially or for a cause. Do you think that adds to, I suppose, the occasion a bit, that you can go into this in completely different pathways but still be sort of, I guess, united in one good occasion? Yeah, I think so. And there's quite a few of us going. Some of us are doing championship entries, Good for Age, club places. Charlotte doing it for charity. And even though she's not done one before and I've done a few before and I'm doing it as Good for Age, it's really good that we've been chatting to each other and we can help each other, and it sort of brought us a little bit closer together, I think, having something in common that we can talk about and share, and just so looking forward to getting to the finish line and meeting up with everybody.
Manx Radio Sport.
That's all we have time for on Friday Sport Preview this week on Manx Radio. Many thanks to my guests this week, Tony Mepham, Dave Christian, Richard Shipway and Dawn Atherton. Have yourself a lovely Friday evening and a wonderful weekend as well. Chris Kinney's here with you next, but from me, until next time, it's bye for now.